I've spent years, I mean years, trying to figure out why my songs sound like demos. Like, the composition was there. A melody, the chords, the vibe, all of it was there. But every time I bounced the track and played it back on my phone, it just felt flat, like eating a meal with no seasoning. And here's what nobody tells you. At some point, it stops being about how many notes you can play. It becomes about flavor. And if you can't hear what's missing, you're cooked. That was me. And this is a story of how I fixed it, and what I found along the way that I genuinely didn't expect. Let me paint the picture real quick. My goal, and I'm saying this out loud so you can hold me accountable, is to headline Coachella. Not play Coachella, headline it. And I know how that sounds, but I also know that every artist who ever stood on that stage had a version of themselves sitting in the bedroom, mixing bad sounding records, wondering if they were wasting their time. That was me 6 months ago. I had the songs. The bones were solid, but the mixes, my masters, they sounded like I was standing 10 feet behind the glass while the pros were right up against the mic. There was this gap between what I was hearing in my head and what was coming out of my speakers, and I couldn't close it. I'd swap out plugins, I'd watch tutorials, I'd tweak EQs for hours, and still, that sound, that thing that makes a record feel finished and expensive and alive, I couldn't find it. And here's why it matters. If my songs don't sound like they belong in that tier, they don't get placed, they don't get pitched, they don't get heard by the right people. You can be the most talented person in the room and still get skipped if your mix sounds amateur. That's the reality. And that gap between where I was and where I needed to be, that was the thing keeping me from my goal. So I did what any obsessive does. I started watching everything. That's when I stumbled down a mix with the masters rabbit hole, and something clicked. I kept seeing the same plugins showing up in session after session after session. Waves, Renaissance Suite, specifically the Renaissance compressor and other ones like RVox. And I'd been sleeping in Waves forever because honestly, I thought it was old school. I thought the newer stuff was better by default. But here were world-class engineers, people mixing for artists I actually listened to, reaching for these things like they were second nature, and so I paid attention. Now here's where the resource constraint kicks in, and I know you know this feeling. I looked up the individual plugins, and then I looked at the bundle, and the math did that thing where it made you feel stupid for not buying the bigger package. If I'm buying two anyway, the bundle is basically a no-brainer. I don't love that they got me there, but they did. So I bought the Waves Renaissance Max Suite. And my first session with the RVox on my vocal chain, bro, my vocal came forward, not louder, forward. Like someone moved out of the back of the room and put it right in front of me. It's like here, that smooth upfront quality I'd been chasing. It was just there.
This is all I know, this is all I know, yeah. Feel it in my bones, feel it in my bones, yeah.
Like the plugin already knew what the vocal needed to do. Jaycen Joshua had talked about this in his shorts. Oliver 40, Drake's producer, swears by it. Now I understood why. But then I found the one that really changed the low end for me, and that was RBass. My bass was always there in the mix. Technically, it existed, but it didn't hit. You know that feeling where you're in a car and the bass just sits in your chest? My mixes didn't have that. RBass added frequencies that weren't even there before. Like, it just invented them. But they sounded completely natural. That's the part I can't fully explain. It just made the low end feel like it belonged in a big room. And for hip hop, R&B, or pop, that bottom end isn't just decoration. It's the heartbeat of the record. If that doesn't hit, the whole thing collapses. So now I had two plugins I was using every session, which meant, again, I was back doing the mental math on the bundle. And yeah, I kept them all. But here's the thing I want to flag, because this is where the real efficiency unlock happened for me. Once I had plugins I trusted, I built templates around them. A bass template, a vocal template, a guitar template. So when I sit down to make a song now, I'm not starting from zero. I'm starting from a place where everything is already dialed in. I just open it up and I start cooking. That time pressure I always felt, that thing where the inspiration's there, but you're losing it because you're still setting up your session, that's gone. The template holds the flavor. I just add the ingredients in. Now I need to tell you about RAxx. And I almost glossed over this one because it wasn't on my radar at all. But this might be the secret gem of the whole package. I like guitars in my song. I grew up hearing them. I love the texture, the warmth, but every time I put a guitar in the mix, it kind of felt hollow. Present, but not present. You know, like it was floating somewhere behind the rest of the track. I figured that was just the nature of the instrument in a digital mix. Then I was going through the full plugins list one day, just clicking around. And then I see RAxx's, described as specifically made for guitars and plucked instruments. I almost skipped it, but I threw it on my guitar track and I genuinely stopped what I was doing, whatever RAxx does, and I couldn't tell you the science of it. It gives guitar this color and warmth that sounds like the instrument had been recorded in a proper room. It had presence, it fills space in the mix without getting in the way of anything else. It just sounds right. That's the only way I can say it. It sounds right. And then there's RComp. I'll be real with you. I almost didn't touch it because I already have Factor to C3, which is literally double the price. I figured, why would I reach for the cheaper option? But I started messing around with it. It's so simple. I put it on a synth of all things and it just worked. It's not trying to be a LA2A. It's not trying to be a vintage emulation. It's something simpler and more direct. And somehow that simplicity is exactly what certain instruments need. The compression is clean and characterful without being heavy-handed. It's become my go-to for instruments, and I didn't even know I needed compression until I tried it. And look, I'll be honest with the whole gain staging piece too, because this changed how I use all of it. It's not just about what plugin you're using, it's about the signal hitting it correctly. Too hot, you're destroying it. Too low, and you're getting nothing from it. When the signal is hitting the Renaissance compressors at the right level, everything locked in. The plugins started doing exactly what they were supposed to do. That's when it all clicked. So where does this leave me? I'm not here to tell you to go spend your money on plugins. That's genuinely not the point, but it's a necessary need if you want to get big. What I am telling you is this. For the longest time, I thought my songs were held back by something I couldn't name. Turns out there was flavor, sonic character, the thing that separates a mix that sounds like a demo from a mix that sounds like a record. And the way Renaissance Suite, specifically RVox for vocals, RBass for the low end, RAxx for guitars, RComp as a wildcard for instruments, filled that gap for me. Do I still have a long way to go before I'm headlining Coachella? Obviously. But every session I sit down in now sounds closer. And that feeling of opening a session and already liking what I'm hearing before I've even started, that's new. That's progress. That's the game I'm playing.